Hello, everybody. We are the Talking Hats coming at you this week. We're going to lead off segment one here with some NBA playoff talk. But to introduce ourselves, I'm Dale. That's Harish, and we are the Talking Hats. So, like I said, we're going to jump right into some NBA playoff action. We've got the Western Conference Finals with the Golden State Warriors versus the Dallas Mavericks, and the East with Boston versus Miami. Harish picked that one. He was correct on that prediction there. And then I think you might have picked the Mavs in that previous series too.
Yeah,
And I've been all over the Warriors too. So if you're a betting man, you need to be listening to this podcast for your picks and listen to Harish because he's got it, not me. But yeah, let's get into this playoff action here. I'll let you go ahead and lead us off.
See, I knew Boston was going to lay a dud in game one. I just had a feeling because they put all that energy in beating the Bucks. So, and I'm not saying that the Heat didn't put all out against the 76ers. I think they blew out the 76ers in their last before they went in. I don't think it was a close game.
No, it wasn't. And everybody was talking about how embarrassing that was for the Sixers, a team with such high hopes to go out and lay an egg like that. But
I mean, it's here nor there, and we can get into that on a different show. But when they played, it was like the tale of two halves. Or the tail of a quarter, I would say, right? So after the first half, everything was kind of like, even keel going back and forth. But then
we can actually get into the Sixers a little bit at the end of this segment because there's some interesting news that kind of affects our team coming out about the Sixers. So we can touch on that later. But go ahead, back to this series.
So it's almost like, the third quarter is where like Jimmy Butler just all of a sudden just took over the game. And then just the Celtics, I think, they didn't know how to play the Heat, number one. Number two, there's Al Horford is out. So that was a huge blow to them. And three, I think they were just tired. I mean, because when that Boston and Bucks series were hyped up so much that their energy was just all gone in game six. So I think they just ran out of gas. I honestly think they just ran out of gas, and people were just like kind of like probably just drained from the previous series. And the funny thing is, in game two, tail again. it was like Jason Tatum, and then it was the other role players that kind of stepped up. And that's how Boston is playing, is if one person is not playing well, there's another person that can step up. And for the Heat, they don't have that. They only have Jimmy Butler, but they need their role players to come up. Bam Adebayo is non-existent. Hero is non-existent. So when you don't have their shooters to complement Jimmy Butler can't do it on his own. The Heat's not built that way. Even though they're great, they're amazingly coached, they can't beat a Celtics team that can score at will. In all honesty, from anybody can have like a 20 to 30 point night.
Yeah, as far as game one in this series, the Celtics were limited due to the fact that the defensive player of the year, Marcus Smart, was out. Horford was out too. And so that not only hurts your depth, I mean, the energy guy, Marcus Smart, that's going to affect everybody else's energy levels too. The Celtics actually got off to a good start in the game. They just withered down the stretch, and Miami came on and had a big second half and just put the game away. It didn't end up being close, even though the Celtics looked like they were going to win it in the first half. So, like I said, those things are going to affect you. And then when you're going up against a coach like Spoelstra, when you've got a lead, you can't rest on your laurels at all. His teams are never going to quit. And with a bulldog like Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler has been getting a lot of credit in these playoffs for like Shaq, guys like Shaq saying he's on an elite level. And Barkley was having an argument with him, like not having Marcus Smart is going to hurt when you've got a guy like Jimmy Butler. And Shaq was saying, no, Jimmy Butler's on a level where it doesn't matter if you're playing against the defensive player of the year. He needs to have a big game either way. The thing is, like, I get what Shaq's trying to say. The problem is Jimmy Butler's never been consistently that guy. Yeah, he'll go out and have a 40-point night. He'll give you 40, 10, and 15 on the night. Then the next night, he'll give you 15 and nothing. He's too inconsistent for me to ever give him like that elite status. He's a very good player. Borderline great, not great yet. So Shaq is really overhyping him. I've always wanted him to be that. I've been a fan since this time with the Bulls. I love his story. I love the passion he gives on an inconsistent basis. He's never brought that every night. And for this team to get over the hump, they made it to the finals a couple of years ago against the Lakers. For them to get over the hump, he needs to be what Jason Tatum is now. And he might be too late in his career to realize that greatness. It's too inconsistent, and that's going to end up being Miami's exit here. Because, like you said, Bam Adebayo he's not really showing up. He's decent, but it's time for the next step. Hero, I understand he's the sixth man, whatever. They count on him for more than that. He's got to give him more than that. They're finally giving Duncan Robinson some more minutes. I don't know if that's because the game was kind of a little out of hand there, but he needs to play up to his contract. Oladipo's got to play better. The series is tied 1-1, but that split was in Miami, so we're going back to Boston here, right? Because Boston,
1-1, yeah.
And so we're going back to Boston here, and Miami could be up against it. The Celtics are even tougher at home. They're getting more healthy. Smart is back. He had a big game the other night. That's why they won. This series, I said on 2 shows ago, I said that the winner of the Bucks Celtics series was going to win the Eastern Conference, and I'm standing by that. The Heat are great, but they're too inconsistent for me to take it.
Yep, I can't agree. I can't disagree with you, because they like, if you look at it now in Boston, they're not going to lose. Boston's not going to lose at home.
I can't see it.
Yeah, barring I can't see it either. Yeah, barring any injuries. Yeah, I mean, we just can't see them kind of. I don't see an exit left any time in their near future. Now let's transition over to the. I don't even know what to call this game anymore, because it was just a smackdown. I mean, it was just a smackdown.
It was definitely.
Yeah.
Game, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I don't think Dallas was ready for the onslaught of the Golden State Warriors. I don't think they were ready. I don't think they were kind of mentally prepared for what they went through. But I also feel that Luka can't do it all on his own. Because they made a comparison to the games beforehand where they were making their 3-point shots and they kind of went to the inside, and I think they were like 13 for 20. It was like a ridiculous amount of like misses they had. And that team is with the pieces that they got after the trade with the Wizards, you would think that they would be a little bit more better in that department, because with Bertans and even with Dinwiddie, and you have to give credit where credit's due. Golden State shut them down. I mean, you cannot overlook that. You just can't. And with that, you have to pick your poison. Who are you going to stop? Curry, Klay Thompson, even Otto Porter Jr.? I mean, you have secondary and third pieces that can come off the bench and score on any given time. So I think this series is going to be a clean sweep, and I don't think Luka can, handle. I mean, it's all Luka, but if you don't got your players, or if you don't got your people around you, you're not going to win this. Not at all.
Yeah, when you say onslaught, that first game, they were just completely overwhelmed by Golden State's talent and depth. They've got scoring everywhere. They've got guys that haven't even played in this series yet who could come out there and drop 20. Like Kuminga, I don't think has played in this series, and he's a fantastic. Maybe he got in late when the game was out of hand for game 1, but he's a fantastic player and is not getting minutes because the rest of their team is just so good. And Dallas, they're a team that has kind of. They've done the best they could with the hand they've been dealt. They were dealt, to use a poker analogy, a deuce 7 offsuit, which is the worst hand you can have in poker, and they played that all the way to the end. And that final card is about to be turned over, and they're going to be exposed for having nothing. All they've got is Luka. Jalen Brunson he's fine. He's going to get paid. I don't know if that's deserved. He's had a fantastic playoffs, but in reality, he's a 16-point a game player. Like, that's who he really is. He's playing above his head now, but he's going to get paid off how well he's playing in the playoffs. And the fact of the matter is, Luka's carried the team this far, but this might be absolutely as far as he can take them, and that might just be because things fell just completely perfectly into place. And the game last night, they got hot in the first half. They came on scorching, hitting every single shot. Luka at the end of the half hit an almost half court 3 just pull up. They were on fire. Then in the second half, that you live by the 3, you die by the 3. It was catching up with them. They were missing wide open looks. So they're not the team that can live by the 3, but Golden State absolutely is. And they, like I said, with their depth, it's an onslaught. It starts and it never stops. You put in their bench guys, and the bench is what actually got them back in the game last night. It's just too much. And for Dallas, Golden State is way too much. And the bet that I put on Golden State is going to come to fruition. They're going to win it all. I don't care who's coming out. This could be Miami or the Celtics. Neither one of those teams have a shot against Golden State. They're just too tough, too well coached. I give Jason Kidd a lot of credit for what he's done with this Dallas team. I give Luka all the credit in the world for carrying them this far. But whether or not he would ask for some help, for them to go further than this, they got to get him some help.
Yeah.
And what they have on the roster right now, with the guys you said they got from the Wizards, that's not the help he needs. He needs more.
No. Yeah, I honestly feel that like he's tasted the Eastern Conference Finals, right? He has a little sip of it. If this is a sweep, right? I do believe that he's going to go to management and be like, I need this player, and this player to get it done. He has to.
I don't think he will, though. I think, he kind of orchestrated getting Kristaps out of there. And Kristaps healthy could have been the help he needs, but you can't count on him. So he needs someone of that caliber who's going to be there every night. And I don't know that he would ask for it. I think he thinks he's enough on his own. And the league is just, back in the old days, maybe, but not now. With super teams, like he'll get them into the playoffs, but he can't get them over the top by himself.
Yeah, and then that's the problem, I think, then that they're going to have year in and year out. If they cannot get the players that they need, or if they don't draft well, then they're going to be starting from square one every single year.
Yeah, and they're always going to be drafting late because he's always going to have them in the playoffs. So that means you got to have somebody in there like from the Spurs management, who the Spurs don't miss on those late picks. And even the Nuggets got lucky with the Jokic pick in the second round, but they don't have a history of it. But the Spurs have a history of finding guys later. So you need somebody like that with that eye for that later round talent to get some help in there. It might free agents might want to play with him, and Dallas is a fine place to live. So that could happen. Bringing in another max player. The thing is I don't like I said, Luka's not going to ask for that. No. So.
But you think it's just because it's his personality, or he doesn't?
I really think he thinks he can do it by himself with some role players, and that because he's proven it. Like it's him and role players right now, and they're in the Western Conference Finals, and they almost won last night.
That's true. Yeah. So, okay. That's fair point. Very fair point.
So maybe they can go to Dallas and take one or two. The crowd is going to be solidly behind them. They got to hope Golden State is cold. That's really their only chance, is just an off night by the Warriors, because.
Or injuries.
Yeah, that's it. But outside of that, the Warriors are just, you got one versus the Warriors go 10 deep. So
yeah, it's going to be crazy. So let's kind of ease into the Philly conversation that you wanted to bring up. Like, what did you hear? What did you see to people that may not know that some news that came out?
Just that, and this was kind of floating around during the regular season, but Beal got hurt. Just that Philly is interested in trying to bring in Beal to pair with Harden and team up with Embiid too. First of all, I'm in on that. You're shaking your head. I'm in. I want to unload that deal. I don't think Beal is the guy who can get this team over the top. He's going to get a max extension this offseason. The Wizards can give him that and then do a sign and trade and try to get Maxey from the Sixers. If that goes down, you got to get him. Any deal without him is a non-starter. And I think they would be looking to offload Tobias Harris's contract too, because he's been a dud. So those two guys, and maybe some other filler to match up the contracts. Anything that involves Maxey, if you can unload Beal for that, I'm in. Do it, and then the Sixers will still suck because they got Harden. So that's not going to get them over the top, but I think they think it will.
If you didn't say Maxey, I would have been like this. That's why I was shaking my head. And once you said Max, and I was just like, all right, because when he first came onto the scene, you knew something special was going on with him. And unfortunately, he doesn't get the playing time he needs in Philly because of Harden eats up everything. He doesn't do anything, but he takes time away from individuals. I want Beal back, but if Philly does propose that trade, you have to take it. If it doesn't include Maxey in that deal, you cannot. You got to be like, I'm sorry, we can't do it. But even if, let's say, even if that deal does happen and Beal does go to the 76ers, Harden is the problem. It's not going to be Beal. It's not going to be Embiid. It's going to be Harden, because he now went from, can I say elite stature, or is that premature?
He was an elite scorer.
He was an elite scorer.
And he got to the point where he was borderline elite facilitator too.
So he went from that to like maybe down to mediocre now. I mean, he doesn't really mediocre in the
solidly
sense
mediocre, solidly
mediocre, yeah, solidly mediocre because he doesn't lead his team. I mean, I don't think he's a like when one person scores 40 points, everybody around him kind of picks up their game. They kind of say, okay, if he's trying this hard, I gotta try even harder. It just felt that like he doesn't do that. He just only cares about his shots, his assists, his own like kind of thing. But everybody around doesn't really elevate their game. I mean, you had Embiid who came in second to the MVP polling, I think. And yes, his orbital socket was injured. Yes, he was injured. But at the same time, like you have Embiid. Like Embiid is Embiid. And I think Embiid needs to start thinking like a center, like a true center, like Jokic, if he wants to get anywhere. I mean, him taking these like, you can have all the moves in the paint and get inside. That's okay. You should take 1 3-pointer per game and get 20 boards and score 20 points every single game. Every game.
Yeah, I think his 3-point shot should only be used as like you got to like let people know you got to respect it. But yes, he has made it like a primary part of his game, and to me, that's a huge mistake because it takes him out of the paint and where he could be getting offensive boards. It needs to be there just to so teams have to respect it. But he needs to be post first. Yes. And be dominating down there because that's going to open things up for guys like Harden, who hopefully should come back in shape next season with the fire lit under him. I don't know if that's going to happen. Some veteran or somebody put out a quote. I don't even know who it was, but the quote was, "Some guys don't care about winning," and that is prevalent across the league. Some guys just they get paid so much money that it's hard to care about anything else. It's like, all right, I'm paid. I'm not working that hard. Like. And I'm still getting paid. Like back in the day, you had guys like Jordan who never left the gym. He might leave the gym, hit the golf course, and do some gambling. But after that, like he was other 20 hours a day, he was in the gym. Like because guys like that back then, they weren't making as much money. So it was about you got to win if you want to get that stature and get those endorsements and all that stuff. Now you're paid so much that it's like, all right, I didn't lift the weight and I got a max deal. Like freaking Karl Anthony Towns, max deal. You can tell he ain't lifted a weight in his life. Imagine if he worked out or like put in real time on his game. And like Ben Simmons, like imagine if these dudes like had to care to earn money. They would be just amazing talents, but they're getting paid and they're not even putting forth much effort. So it's like, that's how you get over the top. That's what it's going to take for the Sixers to get over the top. It's going to take for Harden to care, come back in shape, fire lit under him. If they got a Beal, it might, with Harden and that kind of shape, it might help them get over the top at that point. But as things stand now, with the Harden I've seen the past 2 seasons, this is a team that's going to be mired in that, okay, they'll be a high seed every year and then they'll get bounced. That's it. That's their ceiling.
Yep, I agree. And I think, like, I like Doc Rivers, but there's something that goes on in the playoffs. I've stated that numerous times that he's a great coach. It's just that, like, did he coach the Celtics when they won the ring, right? He was, so it's almost like he needs a player like Kevin Garnett. Like he's the one that actually controlled the team. You need a guy that can be like, you need someone like that. I don't know if Embiid's like that, but he needs somebody to kind of corral people. Say, listen, we need to do this. If we want to win, we have to do this. And I don't think Doc Rivers has that player, and that's why I think he has struggled where he has gone in the playoffs, especially when he's gotten deep in the playoffs. He doesn't have a player with that kind of mentality.
I don't know if you remember his run with the Celtics. So they won the ring that year, and then the next year I think they lost in the second round. Fact check me on that, somebody. But then the year after that, they were in Game 7 against the Lakers, and they were up double digits in the second half. And then Kobe was like, "Nah, we're gonna go ahead and take this." So they were this close to having 2 rings with that team. And then after that with the Clippers, he had some playoff success, but they had Blake Griffin and Chris Paul. They needed something else, and they would get playoff runs, but never get over the top with that team. They just needed one more piece with that team, and they would have been fine.
Yeah, and I think he's getting the raw end of the stick now in Philly is because the players that he's working with, he has one of the best centers in the NBA, which is Joel Embiid. You can't deny that. Unfortunately, he needs to kind of relook at his roster and maybe. This may be something surprising, is maybe have Harden come off the bench. And I know that's not going to happen, but they have to shake it up because Maxey, like that's the future of the NBA. And he scores 20 points. He's like a better John Wall.
I think
Like
their
if you
hope
look,
has to be, like I said last show, that
Mhm.
Harden does not opt in to that 47
Yeah,
million, and then they can let him explore the market. That has to be their hope. If he does opt in, though, that 47 million, you can't have that coming off the bench.
nah,
I mean, it makes sense, but that's so much money that
it is.
you can't do that. That's just it hampers everything else. I think Daryl Morey deserves some blame here. I think he made
Mhm.
a mistake in the deal. I know you had to get rid of Ben Simmons, but I would have done that for a guy who was more motivated than James Harden.
Right.
Um,
Yeah,
and they
agreed.
they they gave up a lot of depth to do that too. So that
Yeah.
hurt the team, and it certainly didn't help them get to where they need to be. So it can
No,
only be
not at
looked
all.
at now as a mistake.
Yeah. And sometimes you just have to bite the bullet on certain things. Some things work, some things don't work. This experiment didn't work. Maybe you just have to cut your losses and move on. Just say, sorry, guy, we're not going to re-sign you. And, play Maxi as their front point guard. I mean, he's fundamentally sound. He makes the shots when you need to, and he. I mean, I say he's like a better John Wall because he can shoot. He has all. He's fast. He does all the things right. It's just that he's not getting the shine that he deserves. He comes off the bench, and when he
Who's that?
comes off the bench, Maxi,
No, he started
did he start?
after.
Oh,
Yeah,
after that. Okay, okay, but even at that, I think he should just be a full-time starter, not
yeah,
just like rotate in and out.
yeah.
And
He
that's
needs
I think.
he needs to be Embiid's Robin, or they need to move him to the
Yes,
Wizards.
yes, I agree. And if he comes to the Wizards, yeah, that's game over. I'm
Yeah,
gonna tell you that right now. If Maxey comes to the Washington Wizards, that lineup is scary. That lineup is just going to be scary.
yeah. So to wrap up the NBA segment here, the last thing that happened this past week was the NBA draft lottery.
Mm-hmm.
The Orlando Magic got the first pick. They're gonna probably watch that and be stinky here in perpetuity. Who cares about them? The Wizards ended up, of course, with the 10th pick, and they claim they have 15 guys they're looking at. So one of those guys will, of course, fall at the 10th pick. I'm sure. Well, I was gonna say I'm sure they'll botch it, but they've got a new guy in charge, and he made some fairly decent moves, even though the Dinwiddie is going to be looked at as a huge botch. They probably
Is
should
it
have had
though?
because, and I'm not going to put that on him. I'm going to put
Right.
that squarely at the feet of Wes Unseld. He should have been more of a leader and made those guys stop bullying him because he is a
Sure.
good player, and they bullied him out of the building.
Yeah.
But that's going to be looked at as a mistake.
Mhm.
They didn't handle that well. That whole thing, how that went down. Kristaps will hopefully play well enough that nobody thinks about it. But he's still playing, so the Wizards are not. But what are you thinking about? Are you think they're gonna get a solid player? And I think they need a point guard. You think they're gonna do something with that 10th pick that's gonna make a difference?
I think so because usually that's where you get the utility players. Your first five are going to be like your studs. Your first five draft picks. The next five are like can be studs, or they can be they're utility players that can become studs. So that 10th pick is very important. It's not like people shouldn't like downgrade the 10th pick because that pick is going to be there for the next 5 to 10 years. And these guys who are coming in the 10th from like, let's say the 6th to the 10th pick, or even maybe the thing are 4-year starters. Because if you look at everybody that the Wizards have on their thing, Rui is a 4-year starter. Avdia, I mean, he didn't play in college, but he has like international experience, and you can't take that away. Corey Kispert was a 4-year starter. So the way Tommy Shepard is kind of building this team is he's building this team on experience. He doesn't want a one and done because then that way they don't have physicality in the NBA is insane. And these young guys that are coming out, there's maybe 1% of them who are the top draft pick and bang with the NBA players. Because these are grown men. You're 18 years old. It's not gonna you have to build your body. But if you look at it, like Rui grew into his body in the NBA, but he had the experience and the knowledge to like bang with everybody else. And he also has the Olympic experience, which he's going to kind of overcome next year. I hope. And I honestly think they're going to get so I want them to get a starting point guard who can actually facilitate, calm things down, because you and I both love Ish Smith. And I think Neto's gone next year. I think they might trade him.
I expect both of them to be gone.
You expect both of them to be gone. So then you have a gaping hole at point guard. There's nobody that can run point on him.
Even with those guys, you have a gaping hole at point guard. Neither one of those guys are starting caliber point guards.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. So they have to pick a point guard or get a better center. like, not a, I mean, because Kristoff is your center, but like maybe like a stretch four. I mean, because Kuzma can play everywhere, so I'm not really worried about that. It's just they need somebody to replace Thomas Bryant, because I think Thomas Bryant got in. He has in his head, as you stated, that the 3-point shot is his greatest shot in the world, which is not. So he lost how to play the game. And Kristoff, like, that's a superior talent. You cannot you need somebody to help him out, because and defensively. So I think they might go for a defensive point guard who can facilitate and not be like a head scorer, because you do have so many scorers on your team. So you just don't need another like kind of point guard. You just need a sound point guard who can give you at least 10 points a game. And that's huge, at least 10 points a game to start with. So I agree with you on that. They probably get a fundamental point guard, hopefully by like maybe one of these mid-major schools that actually produce, because John Morant went to a, Murray State. So
yeah, they need to either get a point guard there or swing the pick for a point guard. But I'm an optimistic dude in general, but for this team, I'm pessimistic on this pick. I think they're going to botch it. So yeah, we can wrap up the NBA segment there. Yep. And we're the Talking Hats. We're going to come back with some NFL talk, and then we've got some college football talk here to get into as well. So we will wrap up this segment. We'll be right back.